Hey, it's a big old pile of money. Welcome back. This episode is going to be talking about 529s, and then at the end we're going to go over, we made it to $600. So let's get into it. So what is a 529? Well, just typing into Google, we'll go to Investopedia, and we'll look exactly what the funds are. 529s essentially are ways to pay for college. So if you see the highlight here, it's an education savings plan, prepaid tuition plan, that offers tax-deferred growth, and withdrawals are tax-free when used for qualified expenses, so basically for school. They have expanded this to also include for private schools. There's even some things that count as like coverage for like cooking classes overseas, but there's a list of what is actually covered. Now, they're also approved and sponsored in all 50 states. There's some private ones too. We'll get into those in a little bit. There's some other cool things about them. So many plans, when you go into them, offer target date funds. Basically, the year in which your child is going to be attending school, or your niece or whomever. It's made up of stocks and bonds, and it gets managed pretty well through each state or whichever 529 you choose to do. Interesting, too, the Secure Act of 2022, so a recent omnibus spending bill, also said that if you overfund a 529 for any reason, you can roll over up to 35 grand of those funds into a Roth for the beneficiary, which is pretty cool. Not sure why they did that, but it is what it is. So, as far as like how they're different from brokerage accounts, I mean, essentially, they're pretty similar, except that you have more limitations on what you can invest in. When you do those target date funds, you can see, and each state is different, but essentially what they are specifically investing in. And because they're target dates, they are more aggressive when it's younger, and then as it gets closer, they move more into bonds, typically, so that you don't have to worry about any losing of money or a bad market year once they're starting college. You'll see as well, you can transfer the beneficiaries tax-free, penalty-free. Let's say you had one kid that got a full scholarship, something like that, and you have another child. You could move that money to the beneficiary of the other child, or even to a grandkid rather, and they would get that benefit as well. So going into 529 plans, you just type in like which ones are the best. This site, Ohio is up there. This was a little bit harder to see. You see some on this website as far as Bankrate, some advertisements too. A good one to actually look at that has a nice list is one from a site from the White Coat Investor. So they spend a lot of time going through all the different state plans, and essentially, more than likely, you're going to want one that's in the state that you're living in. And you can see, based on this list, whether or not you get a tax break. Not all states get a tax break. I would say if you get a tax break in your state, probably beneficial to put it into there, unless it's just a notoriously horrible plan. But most of the state plans are pretty good. If you look for what amount you get off your state taxes, you can see an actual list there too about which ones are considered the best, and they move in and out, but typically Ohio, Utah, Michigan's up there. They have some pretty good plans. Now you'll see this app, the 529 app. It's an extremely easy, pretty intuitive app for your phone. Google Play, they have it for Apple as well. And it's very easy to use. Once you set it up on the actual website, and you can switch back and forth between multiple different 529s. You see the rating there, which is unbelievable as far as actual apps go. But they also have this U-gift calculation, which is nice so that parents, grandparents, anybody can also contribute pretty easily, and then also get a tax write-off on their taxes as well if they want to contribute. So we'll go to a calculator, see kind of how this works. We've done this before in the past with brokerage. Let's say you have a child. that's 2 years old. They estimate the annual cost of college at that time to be 25-ish grand a year. You would plan to do $100 a month, and you have a certain rate of return. So they show you how much the education is, how much based on your current savings you'll cover. Not a ton, but anything is better than nothing. And you'll see how much more per month to meet the possible goals of that value. We'll do a different calculator just to make sure, these things kind of make sense and are in check. Education cost inflation, 4.8%. Again, might outpace further than that. Hopefully, college stops, outperforming inflation wildly, but we'll see if that's true in the coming couple decades. So, same calculation, child 1 at 2 years old, say that's when you start saving, and then you want to start the education at 18. Tuition, maybe 20 grand a year, but 10 grand for room and board. And then you can hit calculate and see effectively how that looks. So you'll see a nice little graph there at the bottom, how much money basically would be there versus how much the expenses. And then 16 years into it, that's when they'll start drawing out of the fund, obviously because the needs for college will start. Let's say you changed it though. Instead of 100 a month, let's do, 1,000 a month. You can go back and do 500 a month. It really just depends on how much you plan to save and how much realistically you want in that account. But we'll calculate it with $500, all else being equal. And you can see, based on if you did the 500, at the top peak there in the blue, you would have enough to likely fund majority of the college. Some other things that are interesting, sometimes people know about that if you have a 529, like a parent, let's say, has a 529, then it counts against you as the FAFSA. Now, it's not hugely significant, but it does decrease the amount that you might be eligible for need-based. However, if a grandparent now, because that had changed, or let's say an aunt and uncle own the account, that does not get taken into FAFSA consideration as long as you don't start pulling from it. And here's the update, going back to Vanguard specifically. We're up to over $600. This, again, has just been continuation of putting in $25 per week. And you can see increased on the returns. 30 of that dollars was just because we put it in this account, as opposed to keep it in a bank account, let's say, where it's earning a fraction of a percent. And you see that nice little graph. It went down initially. You can see that in past videos. But now we're actually starting to make profit on the money. So if you're new, or even if you just aren't sure of the process again, going back, ordering VTI, you can see the current price. You can see the past price in all the past videos as well. And just hit buy. This is again after you set up the brokerage account. If you want information on how to set that up, that's also in the very first video on this channel. We haven't invested in a little bit. 125 have been sitting in the sweep account, but we'll put all the money in buying fractional shares, so we just choose dollars instead of shares, preview the order, and that's it. So the pile keeps growing. Hope you liked the video. Thanks. I hope you're doing well.